As Jane mentioned, she mentioned DoorDash, and in response to the coronavirus outbreak, the delivery network is beefing up support for some of its employees as part of a partnership with the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. DoorDash will expand financial, child care, and health-related support for its gig workers. Joining us right now to talk more about it is Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania Attorney General, and also Tony Xu, DoorDash CEO. Good morning to both of you gentlemen. Help us understand what this partnership is going to do for the people in your community.
Well, it's good to be with you. Look, we know here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we've got 1.7 million Pennsylvanians out of work. We also know that gig workers are stepping up on the front lines and really acting as essential workers for so many of the products we need. And yet many of them can't get PPE. Many of them can't get the financial security and the benefits they need if they get sick or a loved one gets sick. Enter DoorDash. You know, I've been trying to work with gig economy companies to try and make sure that they would protect their workers. And I reached out to Tony a couple of weeks ago. I said, let's do something really significant for these gig workers in Pennsylvania. Let's make sure that we set a new standard of protection for these workers. And it was great to work with DoorDash. And not only are we able to do it in Pennsylvania, but Tony's taking that all the way across the country, not just making sure that they've got PPE and benefits and funding if they get sick, but also stepping up in two communities that have just really been racked by both the economic crisis and the public health crisis, and that's Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. We've got homebound low-income seniors who can't get access to food that's actually being paid for them. And so now we're going to have Dashers taking those meals to those seniors. So all in all, this is a big step for Pennsylvania. It's a huge step for gig workers, and I'm proud to partner with DoorDash.
Hey, Tony, explain it a little bit, not just in the Pennsylvania context, but to the degree that you're going to try to take this nationally. How much money is it going to cost you? How much money is it going to cost the state as well, or states that are going to partner with you?
Well, for DoorDash, it's a big investment. It's a multi-million-dollar investment where that's really started about a month ago at the beginning of this crisis. As I think many of you know, this health crisis is also an economic crisis. There's been so many furloughed workers or workers who've had to receive pay cuts that we really wanted to step up and make sure that there was a holistic program. So that started with distributing millions of units of sanitizers, gloves, masks to make sure that they would be protected, defaulting to no contact deliveries. And then with the expansion of the announcement we made a few weeks ago, and in partnership with Attorney General Shapiro today, we are expanding our financial assistance program. So as mentioned, making sure that the top drivers who are most active on our platform that have primary childcare responsibilities would get financial support, making sure that all Dashers, including new Dashers who are joining in record numbers, would be able to get access to sick leave, making sure that all Dashers would be given access to telemedicine so they don't have to choose and find ways to get diagnosed or, related to any sort of health concerns. And then, as Attorney General Shapiro highlighted, we are also doing work in the community. So that's taking the Project Dash initiative that we've rolled out nationwide and now taking it to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, in which we're donating and delivering free meals to the most vulnerable populations, mobility impaired households, the elderly, food shelters, and then finally also giving free deliveries to healthcare workers in the Pennsylvania healthcare network, as well as nationwide.
Tony, though, how does this change the business model? Because obviously one of the big debates about the gig economy has been all of the benefits, or frankly, the lack of benefits that gig workers traditionally were provided. And that was so crucial, at least I think the public's understanding was so crucial to the business model of a company like a DoorDash.
Well, I appreciate the question, Andrew, because I think one of the things that most people don't recognize is that most of the workers on the DoorDash platform or on platforms like DoorDash work very few hours a week. Typically before this pandemic, 90% of drivers were working about 3 hours on average per week. And that's because they had other jobs. And this was really an opportunity to supplement that income. Now, certainly with COVID-19 and the turmoil that I think we've seen in the economy, there have been lots of folks joining platforms like ours to make sure that they can add to their previous income. What they really value is making sure that they have the flexibility to work whenever they want, wherever they want, especially during now. And we want to make sure that these folks also get the protections that they deserve.
All right. Attorney General Shapiro, how do you think about the gig worker? Again, this larger contextual question of whether gig workers should get benefits, should be considered employees versus contractors, and the benefits that they may get as contractors insofar as they can work when they want to work. They don't have to work when they don't want to work. It's a conundrum.
Well, it's not so much a conundrum, but it is a serious public policy issue that needs to be addressed. I'm choosing to look at this sort of in two buckets. Number one, we've got an immediate crisis, and Tony and DoorDash have stepped up to address that for their workers here. And I'm going to be working with other CEOs from these gig companies to try and get them to emulate what DoorDash did. But you raise a really important point about the broader economic issues. I've been a champion for workers, and I have seen so many gig workers fall through the cracks when they don't have the kind of security that other workers have. Clearly, this needs to be addressed on a broad public policy issue as we rebuild our economy. And with so many people out of work in Pennsylvania, I said that before, 1.7 million Pennsylvanians, that's 1 in 5 workers here in the Commonwealth. We know that there's going to be a realignment of the workforce, and we know that more people are going to seek the flexibility that Tony's talking about and ways in which they can, provide for their family and have flexibility to do the other things they need. But in the process of getting that flexibility, in the process of being able to work for one of these gig companies, we've got to make sure that they step up with worker protections. We think that this is a really important start. We think this sets a good tone and a good example, but we've got a serious challenge in this country. Within a decade, we know that more than 50% of our workforce is going to be in a position where they are working for one of these gig companies, where they're independent contractors. We've got to ensure that they have protections so that they can't be taken advantage of by employers or by the circumstances that might create challenges for them.